Artist Talk with Alan Corvaya and Madeleine Quinn. Let us begin.
Oh, that is clean, Madeleine.
Thank you.
Oh, great. So, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're my first chat of the year.
That's so exciting.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
2023.
2023. This year, feels... Isn't your favorite number 23, you said?
One of my favorite numbers. It's my third favorite number.
What's your first favorite number?
21.
Oh, fucking... Well, we already went through that year.
I know. We're done with the 21, then 17, then 23.
What about 17 you like?
I like its essence.
Uh-huh.
So I've talked to a few people about this. Apparently this isn't something that everybody feels, but every single number, I have very strong feelings about each number.
Okay.
So sometimes it's the way the numbers look, or sometimes it's the way, like, when it's said, the reason I like it or not like it,
Yeah.
So every number I have different. And 17, I think I really like the way the 1 and the 7 kind of form a shape, they form a triangle.
Yeah.
I like the way that looks, and I just like the feeling of the 1 being this tall form and the 7 kind of this cut out to the side.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
There's a little bit of danger to
yes.
it. It's not like an 11,
uh-huh.
which an 11, it's like a beautiful number. It's
yes.
almost very angelic, right?
Because it's the parallel, just two parallel lines. Yeah.
But then the 17 is like that.
Yeah.
Do you, that reminds me, like, do you believe in, like, angel numbers and stuff like that? Do you see that?
A little bit.
Yeah?
I would say I don't always think of them as, I don't know. I haven't thought of them as angel numbers as much, but I definitely I think of them as, like, lucky numbers. Okay. So, like, anytime I see 21, it's, like, a lucky number. I always think of it as, like, a lucky number.
And do you see it often?
Yeah.
I
think so. I think because the reason it started being my favorite number was because in grade school, I don't know if you had this too, but we had like magic numbers every year. And all it was just where your last name fell in the alphabetical order in that class. Because, they would number off starting with the last name of A. Mm-hmm. And then, but you'd have that number and you'd write that number on all your school supplies and for that year. That was your magic number. Okay. And so 3 years in a row, first, second, and third grade, mine was 21. Just because Quinn, where it lined up in the class.
Great.
And so then just like that, then that started being my favorite number. And so then it was my soccer number all growing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
by coincidence or like just?
Then I chose, once it had been my number in school, then I chose it for my soccer number. But I do think that I do see it come up sometimes. And I love 1111, the time. I always, make a wish at 1111. Yeah. Sevens, I like sevens in general. They're lucky as well.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard.
Yeah.
What about you? Yours is 28?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that. And 8 is my favorite number. So.
Oh, okay. And 8, not 28?
8 is my favorite number, but then 28 is my angel number.
Oh.
So it's like I see 28 everywhere, and now that I've added, I guess, more value to this idea, I believe in it. So sometimes when I make choices or like go through parts of my life or little, like I'll see like little omens. I'll see the 28 and I'm like, oh, it's this way. Or I'm feeling frustrated and all of a sudden, like, I don't know, something very randomly like just pops up at 20. Like this happened recently where like I had to change my car and stuff. And the miles that it had on this car that I had picked, it was 28 miles. Like, I tried, like, 7 cars, you know what I mean? Like, that was just looking at different things. And just the one, I wasn't looking at the mileage. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah. And then when I'm signing up the paperwork, it's
28.
Okay, great. Awesome. And it has happened like that so often. And every time I pick up the phone, like, 728. 1128.
I see that. Yes.
828.
Yes.
So what do you see? What number?
For me, it's 823 because that's my birthday. Is August 23rd. But I feel like all the time when I pick up the phone, when I look at the clock, it's 823, which
that's
would be
great.
the same. Yeah, but that's so interesting.
You might have a little bit of an angel number.
If
who cares? But 23, August 23 is your birthday.
Yes.
Does that make you a Leo? No.
I'm a Virgo.
You're a Virgo.
You are too, right?
That makes so much sense.
Really?
Yeah, because you have all the quirks and shit. That's why.
I guess I'm quirky.
You odd human being. Yeah. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, you're kind of picky with food.
Maybe just a little.
Just a little, right?
Yeah, just a smidge,
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just feel like we Virgos have a little bit of fixations on things.
Yes. And I am very OCD. Not to the extent of, full OCD, but I am very particular about how I like things. A lot of times.
What are you particular about? Other than food, because
I'm very particular about colors matching. Oh. And so I think of this like even in, I don't know if what I'm wearing when I put something together, even if I'm going to bed, if my sweatpants and my sweatshirt have to match. I can't have them clashing colors.
You're going to bed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the other day, I went on a walk with my roommate. It was just us. We were just going to be walking. I wasn't going to see anyone else.
Okay.
I think I changed twice because I didn't like, and she looked at me and she said, it's just us. We're just going on a walk. But I just didn't like the way the colors were matching.
And it has nothing to do with how other people perceive you. It's more like a thing that's just in you.
Yeah. Well, even I remember I talked about this actually back in Wolves and at LMU.
Oh, yeah.
We all went around and we talked about like quirks we have. And I remember this was one then I said too is when I write with a pencil, I used to always use like mechanical pencils. I feel like now I use pens a little bit more. Okay. But I like my mechanical pencil, the color of it, to match what I'm wearing.
What?
And so
how
that's
many
like
mechanical pencils do you have?
I only had like maybe 4 or 5 colors, so it wasn't always an exact match. But I was very. Oh my gosh! The other thing I do with color, this one's more relevant. Is so I make protein shake and a tea almost every day, and as you know, because my weird eating, that's like what I eat, and. So we have these cups and straws at my house. So I always make my protein shake in the NutriBullet and then my tea in one of the cups. And I have to match the straws of the protein shake with the cup and the lid and the straw. And then I try to match all of that to like either what I'm wearing or sometimes it's more to like the essence of the day, what the day feels, what color the day feels like, or if it's seasonal, like I match it to a winter color or like a summer color.
See that I don't find obstructing, that's almost like you're in tune and you're like almost setting up intentions for your day or how things, but and this is in my experience. Recently I've started to like analyze myself a little more, right? Like, and just look at the things that I do alone, because that's when you're kind of like the most yourself, honestly. And I found that I have this certain like fixations that become limitations, and I've heard this from other people, like even my mom said it to me recently, you have so many rules, like you just, and I was like, I really like started to think deeper about that, of how many like rules I create for myself, and how they just go. Like for instance, sometimes I have to do this one thing, right? Like I wanted to write this, and I have an idea. Oh, I need to write this idea. Okay, I can't lose it. But while I had the idea, I was washing the dishes. Oh, so no, I need to finish washing the dishes, dry them before I go wash. And then by the time I am sitting down, like the inspiration is almost gone.
Yeah.
What would be the problem? I tell myself, Alan, like what would be the problem if you just stop what you're doing and just go write the idea and then you get back to it? Like, but it's all this like little compulsive things that I've developed, and now I'm like trying to like switch them. So I'm curious as to like, out of all those quirks that you have you found any limitations in some of them?
I think I've started to be aware of those things as well. I think I also have a lot of rules for myself. When you said that, I very much relate. And I think we've talked about this before, that people have told me, you have so many rules. Why, where did these come from, And I think I do. I mean, even rules such as, and this is so crazy because now I look back and this is one that I don't do as much anymore. But when I was in high school, every single week for all 4 years of high school, there's 5 days in a week, right? Generally. Yeah. And of a school week, I would wear my hair down 2 times, in some sort of braid 1 time, a bun 1 time, and a ponytail 1 time.
Religiously,
every week. Well, every week it had to be those 5 would cycle through every week.
Sort it out.
Yes. And it could be maybe a version of down could be curled. And the 2 versions of down had to be different. So it had to be maybe straight one time and up curled another time. And so that was just, but I never thought of that as even strange until afterwards. I just thought, well, there's 5 days. I want to have the most variety of how I wear my hair. I also had a school uniform. So, maybe that's also, I didn't have to think about what I was wearing.
Right.
But it wasn't until later I mentioned that to someone and they said, every single week you systematically had how you were going to wear your hair. And now it's funny because I've thought about, and I've let that go now. I don't do that anymore. Right. I just wear my hair however I'm choosing to wear it that day. But part of me sometimes almost misses that because I feel that now I wear my hair just down or half up, half, all the time. And I don't do as many different variety things. I don't do the weird braided buns and all this stuff that I did all the time then. So I don't know. Do
you think that has to do maybe with how you're allocating your creativity now? Because if you think about it, back then you didn't have to think too much creatively about what you were exposing yourself with clothes. Yeah. But you could play with your head. Yeah. But now it's like, well, you can dress however you want. Yeah. You do almost whatever.
I think you're right. I think that it is a different form of creativity. I think because I like systems a lot and I like rules. I think that I almost feel the need maybe sometimes to impose a system in order to fuel my creativity, which seems almost counterintuitive.
It's counterintuitive, but yes. I this goes back to the Virgo thing that we're talking about of it's like getting to understand yourself. Like, I guess you are realizing that you're more of a structure, but then once you create the structure, then you're free to form. Yes. Free to create.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I wonder what happens though when that structure either is not possible, because there are moments where you just can't. Yeah. And there are and when it's not possible, and then when the system is obstructed, or like when something just gets in the way and just crashes it. Like for instance, you spend 3 hours organizing your agenda and this and that so you could sit down and have a writing, but then when you're just about to write, your roommates walk in and they bring a party of people. Everything you did up until that moment, it's just like, well, now what? You know what I mean? Yeah. So what happens to you
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because this is something I've started being really aware of in myself as well. Is a lot of times I have a set plan for how my day is going to go, and it's like in my head, I'm like, okay, I'll wake up, I'll work out, then I'll come home, I'll make breakfast, then I'll take a shower, then I'm going to go get this done,
By the millimeter.
Yes, I have it all planned out. Yeah. But then, like even yesterday, I didn't even have anything set yesterday. I didn't have any places I needed to be. I didn't have somebody that was expecting me. But in my head, I had this whole system. But then my brother calls, and so I end up talking on the phone for an hour. And so then it's having to reorganize. And I've caught myself, I've kind of been aware of this, is sometimes when I have this set schedule and then something happens, that somebody calls me or my roommate comes in and needs to talk, I notice myself getting irritated sometimes. I notice this irritation where I'm like, I need to get to the next thing. No, I can't stop and talk because I need to get this. But now that I've become aware of that, I've tried to shift and think, no, I don't have anywhere I need to be. I can rearrange the stuff. This is now. This is more important. This person needs to talk to me. This is better. Yes.
The magic of that, it's like, I've realized too, it's like when you truly just surrender to the moment, to the present, and like just do that or do this or engage this priority, that's, and you're not holding on to the plan. A lot of more cool unexpected things happen. Yes. Like all of a sudden you're like in a world that you didn't imagine yourself being, like, oh well, it sucks that I didn't cross off these things from the list, but look at all the new things I got to do that weren't even part of I couldn't even have imagined.
Yes, I agree. And then just how those things always lead to more as you keep and as you just keep allowing things to happen, then suddenly you're in a place where you never could have imagined. You never could have planned for yourself. 100%.
Yeah, this December taught me a big lesson on that because I was traveling with my mom and like I was kind of in charge of like the places we were, like I was kind of like the captain of the trip and helping book things and whatever. And because there was a snowstorm and we were traveling in places that were rainy and there were so many. We were in Seattle and Portland, and there was just so many plan changes to the point where I was like, to me became a joke. It's like, we're gonna do this, but God willing, if it happened, or I'm gonna do this, but because of the weather, maybe it's not. So my mom would just like joke about, because of the weather. It's closed. It's closed. Look at that, because of the weather. And it just became so much more fun as opposed to like the first 3 days. I was just like, it's not flowing, and then like not flowing, and then what fascinates me is how much is us who get in the way, rather than other things in our and just because we're getting on our way, we start projecting that out. So it's like, no, things are not working for me. I planned this and then like you think everything is wrong or outside, and then when you like really just go like this, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm healthy, like I'm with my mom, I'm in a news. What? Yeah. I'm traveling. Yeah. What the hell? Like, why do I have to? What is there to complain?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. That was. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and they mentioned that. I think the quote was, "Our entire world is internal." And more to explain this a little bit more specifically, just exactly what you're saying, that everything that happens to us, we are creating the world as we want to see it. So everything starts internally of how we want to see it. The exact same circumstances could happen to two people, and one person could be, wow, this is so exciting. This is happening to me. This is the best day. This is so great. It's raining. We need more rain in LA, whatever. Whereas the other person is thinking, like it's raining. That means I can't go outside. I can't go on that picnic I wanted to. Whereas the other person thinks, I can sit in by the fire. I can listen to the rain. Just all of this is, it's all how you perceive the world. And always just looking at that and kind of making the bright side of everything. And it changes everything. Like,
it's true. And like, but there's moments it's so hard, right? When you're like in such a you're so caught up in your internal world, like that. Like whatever reality you created in the moment, right? That you can get out of it. Like, what do you do then? Like, I'm curious, and this is something I really wanted to ask you. It's like, when you encounter adversity, you, Madeleine, I don't know, you fight with someone, there's a breakup, or there's an accident, or yada yada yada. It's like, it's easy to say in your head, things are happening for me. Like, this is all for the better. I just should be grateful that. But sometimes it's like, that's just easier said than done. So how do you go about like that? About changing the perspective and not just saying it and actually...
and actually doing it and putting it into action. I think for me, a lot of it starts in prayer. I think that for me, if I meet with adversity or something doesn't go my way and I'm feeling myself, getting upset or anxious or anything, for me, I turn to God. And it's this prayer of, letting go of what I think should be right and entrusting it to God's will instead. And just accepting that, okay, like this isn't what I thought was going to happen, but something even better is going to happen. So I feel like that's one of the first ones is turning to prayer, trying to let go of this grip that so many of us have on life so often of it needing to be our way, letting go of that. And then I think also just kind of trying to focus and fuel any of the feelings I'm feeling towards better things rather than just sitting and thinking and spiraling and wallowing, more putting it into art, like using those feelings to drive things I'm passionate about. Or another thing, my mom always says this whenever, if I'm upset or if she's upset, she says, if you're sad or you're upset about something, then do good for others. Go do good for others. And so we used to, I feel like a few times if, like I was sad about something, then my mom would say, okay, let's go volunteer somewhere, or let's go bring soup to our friend who just had a surgery. Let's go talk to her. Cause it really taking the focus off of yourself and putting it on others' needs, I think for me helps so much. It's such a shift of perspective. Seeing, okay, I'm sad about, I don't know, the fact that, like about this breakup or about a role that I didn't get. But then all of a sudden you put your focus on someone else and you think, this person, it doesn't know where their next meal is coming from. This person just broke both their legs and can't walk for months.
It's almost like you're driving yourself to a place of humility and like acknowledgement of like, I am fortunate.
Yes.
And because I'm fortunate, let me put my energy and resource to good use rather than than just spiraling and not doing anything.
Yeah. And really using, anything that you do have to serve others rather than pitying yourself.
And this is interesting too, because what happens when you start doing that so that you can feel validation from others? So like, because it can also get you can get trapped in the, okay, well, I'm sad. Let me find, seek out purpose in other people. So let me go out, do something that will make me feel good, but let me get their validation so that I feel good about myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you go
I know, but I think, this is one of the world's big questions, I feel like.
Okay.
Is there any selfless good deed? I feel like you're going into that, which is hard because there's an episode of Friends, I don't know, where Phoebe is determined to find a good deed. Okay. And the others are arguing no, because whenever you do these nice things for people, you're feeling good about yourself. So then isn't that selfish because you're just doing it to feel good? And so she's determined to find it, and she can't find a good deed that's completely selfless. But I think a lot of it comes in the intention of it. Like, I think that it's, if you're going about doing these nice things for people only in order that they'll think that you're a nice person, then that's maybe perhaps it's
not
problematic.
Healthy.
Perhaps
Yeah,
probably not healthy. Yeah. But if you're doing it because you're fully willing the good of the other, then I think that's where the motivation has to come from.
Right. And there's an element of like you developing or taking pleasure in helping others. Like you genuinely, as like Phoebe was saying in the episode, like you really feeling good about yourself of like, it doesn't matter if they liked it or not. I'm so proud. I got off bed and I went and I did a sandwich with so much love and gave them to them.
Yes.
And hey, maybe they don't like it, but I did it.
Yes.
And like that energy of like, well, I tried my best, and I'd rather be doing that than just wallow and.
Yes. I agree.
And it's hard, because I also went through periods of, like, it's just like you go through life and there are moments where I've been wallowing and not feeling even the motivation of having. So for me, it's been hard to find sometimes the motivation to even I hadn't thought about, like, for instance, going out and helping people. Like, oh yeah, great. Like, because it's when you don't have motivation, it's sometimes hard to have faith. Yes. And it's so interesting that you say, oh, I turn to prayer. Yeah. You also turn to faith. Yeah. Faith that, because you can have faith and you can keep yourself in the same cycle by just saying, well, I'd rather be here because there isn't any more good coming anyway. So I'm more comfortable here crying and being sad and all this. And like, why turn to the thought of like, oh, good things might come from this? Like, am I losing you in it?
What precisely are you asking?
Yeah, like, no, it's not. It's more like
like, how do you hold on to the faith and the idea, the faith that good things will come even when you're in a dark situation?
That's a very good way to put it. Yeah. Sometimes you don't have the motivation.
Yeah. Okay, when you were saying, talking about motivation, often all of us find ourselves in days or times, longer periods when we don't have motivation. Yeah. It reminds me of another thing from the podcast that I had recommended you listen to. There's a line in it that discipline eats motivation for breakfast. And I loved that. I loved this idea because he was saying that all of us, motivation comes and goes. Yeah. All of us are going to have times we feel motivated, times we don't. And it's crazy because the world is so focused on the time on like, how can I get motivated? Like, how can I feel more motivated to do this? But in the end of the day, the more important thing is doing it. Not just the feeling motivated to do it, but actually doing it. And what's required in order to do it is the discipline to make yourself do it. Because we're not always going to feel motivated to go work out. We're not,
But you showing up and working out.
Yes.
You're like putting in you're putting in the numbers. It's like, well, I didn't feel like writing, but I still sat down and wrote shit, but I wrote.
I did it. Yes.
And sometimes I think the trouble is like we put these expectations of ourselves that, oh, in order to do this, in order, for instance, I'm gonna keep using the example of, in order to write a story, I need to have a really good idea that just catches my breath, and like I can't let go of the idea until I freaking I have all the inspiration. I need to wake up. No. It's like you sitting down and writing shit is what's gonna maybe help you crack the idea and find the idea.
Yeah, I agree. And that's I have two different thoughts, kind of different directions, but both coming from that same point. One, I don't know which one to go to first. Okay, starting with the writing thing and the sitting down and having to have a great idea. It just makes me think of when we did our 30 days of writing poems.
That was really fun.
Yes.
For context.
Yes.
Me and Madeleine, we did a little challenge. We were just keeping each other accountable and writing a poem a day. And it didn't have to be the poem. No, it's just a poem.
Yeah.
And sending it and sharing it. I think the act of sharing it was good.
Yes. And it was good having the accountability because I was like, I know Alan's expecting a poem. I know he's going to get one. And then, or if I hadn't done it yet and you sent yours, I was like, dang, like now I have to respond. I can't respond until I respond with a poem. Yeah. And that was so good because I love writing. I love writing poetry. Yeah. And yet I don't do it that often. I don't do it because part of it is I have this need to have this great inspiration and to sit down and write a great poem that's gonna be mind breaking. And
don't get me wrong, like sometimes you ride that horse and it's amazing. Like when the muse just comes, you're like, oh my god, but it's not all the time.
Yes. And so it was so good just to every day. It was like, even if I'm tired, even if I don't want to, okay, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna write something. And sometimes I wrote ones that probably weren't the best. They probably were a little rough, but sometimes you sit down and write something and it's like, wow, I had no idea I had that inside of me. And then you write it and you're proud of what you just did, even though sitting down there was nothing. It was all empty up here, and then all of a sudden this beautiful thing comes onto the page from sitting down.
Just from sitting, it's almost like you making space for things. It's what allows things to come.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I also think of like, in order for new things to come into your life, you gotta let go of what you're holding on to. You literally let go, like literally just go. Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Watch it fly.
Watch it fly.
Yeah.
But it's not only because we when we get caught up on things, our expectations or this or that, we're like missing out on to like the little doorbell that's kicking in the present. It's like, hey, no, it's hey, but you don't hear the door until you like you go to the living room,
Yeah, until you're in the right room.
What was the other idea that you had?
Oh yes, the other thing that starts in the same place but gears in a different direction. Yeah. Just when you were talking about. We were talking about discipline and having to sit down and write, and do this even when you don't feel like it. I think the same, I was just thinking of it in regards to my faith and like prayer and, how do you find that even when you don't feel it? And I think so much of it, once again, is the discipline of it. And it's not, because it's, and I've heard this in, Father Mike Schmitz is a priest and speaker that I really like, and he talks about this at one point that, even in my faith life, like we're not always gonna feel. I'm not always gonna feel inspired. There's so many times he even talks about this. Somebody who you admire as a great, like the top of having faith and prayer and everything. Sure. And he talks about all the time. He questions God. He's like, "What am I doing? Is this right? Like, is this I'm being called to do?" And he says also, he has people come to him sometimes and say like, Father, like I'm going through all the motion, I'm going to mass every week. I'm praying, like I'm doing all this stuff, but I just don't feel it, like I'm not getting anything, like I don't feel it. And so often it's like, okay, well, like just keep doing, like, stay at it. Cause it's not gonna happen just like that. Sometimes going through those motions of still praying and go through the motions until they become more than motions is what I think it is. And I think that in many facets of life,
it's so true.
Yes. And everything, it's like, we're not always going to, not every day is going to be this spectacular, crazy thing. Oh no. But you have to keep going through everything until it is. And even when it is, you keep going. Then you just keep going even more.
That reminds me of a quote I heard yesterday from this, it's a round table of actors that came out recently. And one of the actors was talking about going to his therapist, and he was feeling very low, and he was saying like, oh, my lows are very low and my highs are very high. how can I just, stay in the middle? Like, I really want to just stay in the middle. And their therapist looks at him and tells him, well, when you go to the doctor and they put the wire in your heart and you're seeing the monitor go up and down, if it stayed in the middle, you would flatline.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And that's what's life. Like, life, it's full of the ups and downs. And
yes.
it's when people, like, I feel like I understand that more and more, because it's like that, there's the cliche of like, oh, it's the bad moments that make you appreciate the good moments. And like, sometimes that would cause me to cringe every time I would hear that. Oh, yeah, I know that, whatever. But then I'm like, when you really like start to sit more with it and really like just feel the understanding of that truth, it is truth. Like, I mean, like, if my dad hadn't passed away in 2014, I wouldn't have the appreciation or openness and the connections of people. I literally just wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? And I so much rather be here. And sometimes to be here, you go through shit. You have to go through muddy times.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's good to know, and that's what also helps me stay hopeful when I'm going through a bad time of like, well, I'm in a tunnel right now. But if I keep driving, if I keep showing up every day, I'm gonna get to see the light of the tunnel.
Yeah.
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 I agree. It makes me think of on the show The Chosen. I think I've told you about it.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I think I told you you remind me of one of the actors in it.
Oh yes.
Yes. Yeah. But. And so it's about Jesus and the apostles, and it's for anybody listening. It is a.
So if you don't know, Madeleine, she's a nun, and no, I'm joking.
No, but it's really a phenomenal show. Just it from any perspective, and the creators even talk about they want it to be this historical fiction that anybody from any background, any interest would enjoy watching
any
it.
Belief,
yes, any belief, and the acting is really great. It's one of the best rendition. That's the wrong word, but adaptations of stories from the Bible that I've seen, because I think a lot tend to be cheesy and low budget and not great acting, not great, all of those things. But this one, it's the best part about it is that it humanizes everybody in it. You start realizing all the stuff these people are going through. When you just read them on the page, it's just like,
it's hard to imagine
it's hard to, and you just think of it as like, oh, they were all these great
perfect.
people. They're all perfect, and
always had faith.
Yes, it was so easy for them to drop their lives and follow. They always believed all these things, and then in the show, you see like the nitty gritty of their lives, and some of it's their own creation, based on whatever. But anyway, there's one episode where one of the apostles is crippled, and so he has a cane, and he has trouble walking, and he struggles with it, and he sees Jesus healing all of these other people. He's healing thousands of other people, and yet somebody right here, he's like, why am I not being healed? Why can I not walk? And he never asks, he never brings it up, and somebody even mentions, why haven't you asked him to heal you? Why? He's like, no, like, I don't want to, he can do it. Like, I don't want to ask, I don't want to burden him with that. Finally, one episode, he asks him, and he says, like, why have you not healed me? And Jesus says, well, first you haven't asked. First you never even asked. You never even came forward. But then also he says, going into what we were saying about the power of suffering and hard times and going through these struggles so there can be light, as he talks to him about, imagine how many lives you can change through what you're going through. And this is such a difficult thing. Wow. And I remember my mom and I watched this episode and we talked about it afterwards, because it's a hard concept to come to terms with, just like in life. It's hard to understand why we have to suffer, why we have to go through these hard times. But I was saying to her, and kind of the message it's saying is, all of these people that hear these teachings, hear this word, hear these stories, not all of them are going to get to be healed by Jesus. So many people are not going to be healed by him. And yet when they see somebody right with Jesus preaching, still able to go about and travel all of these miles, even with his cane, do all of this through his own strength, not through having to have the divine healing, imagine how much greater
yeah.
of an inspiration that is.
Oh, yeah.
And that's part of, and so that's what he's trying, is how many more can be impacted.
100%. This reminds me too of like, there's this book called Papillon, and it's a very famous book. It tells the story of Papillon and how, anyway, there's just a line that says, funnily enough, a pope in a prison cell told him, and he really stuck with it. It's like, because he was going through very hard times, suffering, and going through a huge voyage that got wrecked and all this. And it's like, it is this same obstacles and like struggles that you're going through that are getting the best self of you to come out. Like all this is what's like just the catalyst for the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And we obviously, we wish it was easier, but it isn't. And that also made me think of what you're saying of like how the apostle, like how many people he'll be able to even relate to now that that he had the cane and had to walk through. When I went through my breakup, literally like months after, like I started to just hear a lot of people talk about their breakups. Like, I don't know if I was help or not, but the idea that I could at least hold a good conversation with them and at least hold space to what they were feeling, and like, that made me feel really good, like just that the idea that, wow, like now that I've gone through it, now I know the depths of it a little more. Damn, like we can sit down and talk. Before I couldn't. Before I probably would have. Well, I can only imagine. You know what I mean? And it's so much. I don't know. It shifts life.
Yeah, it is. I've felt that recently too, because one of my best friends has been going through a hard breakup recently, and this is her first breakup, first major heartbreak, first major breakup, and so I've been through my fair share of good heartbreaks, and all of them were not fun, but now having that experience has been so great in being able to talk to her and relate with so many things that she's going through, and be there for her as somebody to bounce these off and to have somebody else that's feeling these same ways.
Really understand them, right?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you also want to feel understood or affirmed, and because you can feel so lonely, like you're on your own island, no one really can relate to what I'm going, but then you like look up and there are a bunch of people who are also in their islands, and they found bridges to other islands.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
You have this community. Well, do you think that people... We're back. Do you think...
Back and better than
ever, yes. Do you think when people like talk to other people... Because this is making me think of what we were saying at the beginning, right? Of like how we create reality and how we see reality, and a lot of it's connected to an internal world and all that. I have an illusion that we're not, but sometimes I feel like that's not the reality. So I'm curious to see what you think. But are we all that selfish that all we care and breathe is like how we're doing and what we want to do and what we're saying? You know what I mean?
It's hard because I don't want to believe that that's true.
Me neither.
So let's not believe that that's true. Because I really want to believe that people are not all just selfish, narcissistic little creatures, and that we all, are living more for the community and the other and just everyone around us, not just for ourselves. I think that it's hard because the way that we are created and the way this world is set up, we should be thinking of others and trying to put ourselves in other shoes, but we're also all stuck inside these heads that can only see the world from our eyes. Right. We're all stuck inside these minds that are just ours and that are just our ideas spinning and going around, and it's impossible for me to jump up and be inside your mind and fully see, you know? And I can try, and all of us can try, and I think that we can enlighten ourselves by listening to the perspectives of others and meeting new people and reading and watching movies and, you know, all these things as much as we can to infiltrate our minds with how others think. But in the end of the day, we're still only in our minds, you know? We're still stuck there, like we can't get out. Yeah. And so I think that is kind of the difficulty of it. And the hard thing too is that, and this is, I was talking to my roommate, I think this also may have been listening to something about this too, that even these interactions we're having with other people, we're only seeing what they're allowing us to see and what they're putting off. Mm-hmm. So even then we're not seeing the full picture of anyone else, because you're only seeing them for however much time you are, and only seeing what they're presenting in whatever form that may be. So you can't, there's no way you can fully grasp another, you know?
Yeah, and that makes me think of, sorry, what were you?
No, go ahead.
It makes me think of like when you like someone and you start to get to know them, or like even just a friend, when you get to know them deeper.
Yes.
It's like, wait a minute, look at all the complexities that you hold and I didn't even know about, and I thought I knew it.
Yes.
And we assume that we know. Like, oh no, oh yeah, they're this cool person, but it's just only that little slice that they put out there that you've been able to see. Yeah. But not this whole full cheese.
Yes. And think about, like you said, how many times in life you've known someone for years, and all of us, and they say something one time, and you're like, I never knew you did that. I didn't know you could do that. Yes. I had a friend I've known since 3rd grade, I think, and when I was back home in Kansas City, he had this guitar and a ukulele and a banjo and all, and I've always known he could play piano, but I was like, I didn't know you could play guitar. How long did you play guitar? Oh, like 6 years. I was like, what? How did I not even realize that? You know? And I said, well, I always think of you playing the piano. And he's like, well, yeah, that too. But, you know, and it's crazy. It's these people that we consider. So even if our good friends, there's that vast domain of things we don't know about them. Yeah. Then how much more the people that we only have brief interactions with are we missing? You know?
That's so interesting. And it helps you not judge less, too, if you think about it. Because it's like, well, you can judge this slice, but you don't really know what's the whole back end of that either.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting too, because it's an ever evolving thing, because we are ever evolving. We're like constantly getting to know ourselves deeper. And as we're getting to know yourselves, like, we're obviously gonna assume, or like we're gonna exhibit different traits. Yes. Because we're also discovering them as we were going. Yeah. It's very interesting.
It is. Well, it's interesting too. Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm just thinking of the fact that, you know, we think that we know all these people, but also, as you said, we're always changing. We're always adapting. We're always developing. Yeah. So then even if I know someone really well a year ago, it's a different person now. I know. You know, still the same core, the same foundation, but even in that 1 year, so much is different, because I think of who I was a year ago, and it's like, wow, I am a very different person. I still have all the same core values, still a lot of the same passion and interests and stuff, but all these little things
keep changing. And it's beautiful too, like beautiful to know that you got to know perspectives of people at certain times, and now you can also surrender that when you meet them again. Yes. And like be like, oh, well, I knew you then, and this was a really, because I've also thought of friends that we haven't kept in touch in a while anymore, but the times that we had together, when we had them, like, I can still appreciate that, and there's something beautiful to that, because at that time and that point in life, we were like very aligned, and we were in the same place, and we had so much fun. Like, we enjoyed it, and I know that if I were to meet them again, we'd have new conversations, and we can ponder and reflect on that, but we can also bring about all this in between life that we've shared, which is always, I think, is beautiful.
I agree. It's interesting too how there's some people that, you know, I was friends with and then have lost touch, and then you come back, and sometimes it's like no time has passed. You know, you jump back in, and it's 100%. Like, oh my gosh, it's like I just saw you yesterday. Yes. How is that? You know, how are we still so in tune with each other?
Energy, right?
Yes. But it's interesting. Sometimes it's that, and then I have some friends that it's like we were so close when our lives aligned in that way. You know, we were so close, and then you don't see each other for a while, and you come back together, and it's almost like you both have evolved along different paths. Like these friends that you still, it's like, you know, you've both changed, but you've kind of been going the same direction still. Yeah. Whereas some people, you come back together, and it's crazy because I feel like I've been having to come to terms a little bit with appreciating the fact that, okay, we did have such great times. You know, we had so much in common, and we were such good friends, and we shared so many things. Now we're just at different points in life, and so we just don't have that same level of connection, you know?
And it's so, natural.
Sorry. Oh, no, go ahead.
No, that I think it's also, it reminds me to allow that too, you know, to be organic and be like, well, that's okay. Yeah. That's okay too. Like, I miss them, or I wish we were in the same country, but it's like, oh, it's okay. Yeah. Like, they're going through what they need to go through, and I'm still cheering for them, you know?
Yes.
And if it ever came for us to meet again, I hope we can share, like, new things, new memorable things.
I agree.
And get to hear about the travels.
Yes, that we went through hear about everything between.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you one of the last questions before we finish, but about acting and your passion for acting.
Oh, yes.
Because you had an interesting path to acting, didn't you?
What?
A path to how did you find acting?
So, for me, it's kind of been almost my whole life. I started dancing when I was 2, and fell in love with it. I danced, and then I twirl baton when I was really little. So I started dancing and twirling, I think, at like 3. And so I was doing competitions twirling, and then all the judges, their comments were always too much dance, not enough twirling. And so then my mom was like, all right, we're just going to do dance. You know, we don't need to do it. And I liked the dancing part so much better than the twirling. Yeah. So I switched to a new dance studio and started doing that. But even when I was little, I loved dancing, but my favorite part of it was just the performing, you know, like, and of the story of it, and being on stage and getting to, I don't know, relate to the audience, and then also to the other dancers and all of that. So I think that was kind of the beginning of it. And then even when I was little, I did little skits at like like little summer camp skits, plays, things like that. But it was always dance, theater, and soccer were the 3 that I feel like throughout my life. And so as I got older, I guess from the time I was maybe in kindergarten, I said I wanted to be in movies when I grew up. Like
really?
Yeah. It was like...
And it wasn't like a movie that you watch or something that influenced that?
It was like, even when I think back, I don't even know when it started, because it's my whole life. That's what I've said, you know? So I think it started with dance and just this love of, and my friends and I, every time we had a sleepover, we'd put on shows in my basement, you know, we'd make our parents come watch, and loved putting all that together. I love public speaking also. So like at school, like I just love giving speeches in class, and I loved doing the readings at mass, and anytime we'd have a little program, I would want to get to do anything like that. I just I love public speaking. I love being in front of people. So I think that's where a lot of it came from. Yeah. All throughout grade school, at my school, you did like a singing program until 7th and 8th grade, did like an actual musical. And I could not wait to get to do the actual, the musical. So that was kind of, middle school was the first time I feel like I really started getting into theater and really not just dancing, but acting and, as well. And then, high school, like theater.
Would you always like do, like how in certain classes they would be like, okay, guys, we're going to do a project, and you could do like a little play of the project. Mm-hmm. Would you have that?
I think, yes. And I think I would always want to do it. I actually, when I think back to being little, we look back and we're like, oh man, I was probably so annoying when I look back. Because I think about how I was in school. I was, now I'm like, I would have been annoyed with myself. Because I was very much like, I want to be the one, want to be the one to do it, want to be the one to perform. Like, any like talent show in grade school, I always had to do some big thing for it or make some big deal of it. Oh my gosh. But it was like, I loved it so much. Any outlet I wanted to jump on and do.
That's awesome that you had places to have outlets for it. Because sometimes I see a lot of people who don't have the outlet, and then they kind of feel like it just becomes a frustrated dream. But it's still a dream. Yeah. It's still an idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but What about you?
What?
Well, you actually just told me.
I told you, yeah.
Yes, recently.
It was similar, like dancing, and then
Yes.
dancing led me to like a school in the arts, and then the little bit. But you know what I found really interesting is like I didn't know how much I loved constructing and leading and directing, the directing aspect of it. Because now that I go back to like high school and stuff, I would always, or middle school, I would always be like, okay, can I do a little play? Can I do a little short film? We need to do a PowerPoint. But can I have a little presentation before, like a little opening with that? So I would make my friends like do that. Like it was so funny.
Well, you did that in college too.
And now I do it in college. So I'm like, okay.
Because as you say that, I'm like, I feel like I've always seen you.
Yeah. It is funny because I'm believing it more this year. That's something I'm manifesting. It's just like believing that more, that I have an eye and love for that kind of craft too.
Yeah.
But it can be intimidating. Well, as a kid it isn't, because you're not thinking about it. But when you become a young adult and you have a brain that thinks and overthinks, and
yes,
you know, like you can shut yourself down so easily.
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But Madeleine,
Alan,
at the end of every chat, I love doing some creative games and stuff.
Oh,
and I thought,
love games.
Yeah. So maybe we could do a one-word story.
Okay.
And then I would love if we share some of our poems. I think that we need to share this with people.
We should. I agree.
And we're back. We're ditching the one-word stories. We're just gonna go straight to the poems because that's where the action is.
Yes, that's the true magic where it unfolds.
Please start us off.
We start off with day 5.
Day 5 of our challenge. This was the little challenge we did. We did like the 30 days of poems. And
yes. So we're just gonna read a few of the highlights from this. Some good, some bad. Hopefully more good than bad. But it doesn't matter. It happened. We're present. Okay, day 5.
Let's start off.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to start off with day 5. Dopamine desires, even the dedicated distract. Anticipation climbing. Best before, but then ice cream declining. Will it live up to what we invent? Disappointment arrives, while satisfaction was our intent. Maybe energy wrongly spent. Prefrontal cortex too good at its job. Various outcomes not always aligning. Okay.
That's gold.
Thank you.
I like that one. All right, this is my day 1. 12:28 struck lightning at my door. With little to say but much to complain, she shook me by the ears and showed me the way. I forget I'm the architect of my dreams, the painter to my hills. Hills sometimes climbed backwards when breath is out of air. That's why with painstaking ache my hand awakens from the ground, grabbing the pencil by the hand and writing a poem before the cuckoo strikes 2. An artist remains when everything that's left is fearless perseverance and an endless desire to make love.
It's beautiful.
And we got some silly ones, yeah?
We do.
Oh, yeah. The silly ones are so good.
Yes, this will kind of start going in that direction. This is day 13. Alice was beautiful and soft and green, with 12 blossoming petals, the happiest flower you've ever seen. One day she was swept away from her home, taken out in the world where there's more room to roam. At first she was scared, and her owner was too. He'd raised her from a seed. How to survive, she hadn't a clue. But she made some good friends who gave her love and sunshine, and before long she knew that she was going to be fine. After a while, she returned to her owner, full of stories and tales to be told. Happy to be home, but if she'd never gone, she would have never learned to be bold.
That one's gold.
Thank you. And
I don't know, well, you consider that one silly, but that one's fun. That's a good one.
Thank
All right.
you. It's kind of a mixture.
Yeah. This can perhaps be one of my favorite ones. It's from day 21. Poem of a poem in a poem for a poem. Thank you, poem. That's it.
I love it. I'll do some stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next yes. Doing a little bit more of the serious ones, I think.
Which one's that?
This one, and then we'll do...
Day 20, okay.
Yes, day 20. So many thoughts in these last few days. Day 20. So many thoughts in these last few days. Drastic ups and downs. Practically hanging upside down. Constantly in a hurry even when I'm not. Feeling like I need to be somewhere else that I'm not. But where on earth do I need to be? Alors pourquoi pas ici? Hear the clock ticking towards time itself. Fearful I'm running out. Yet years stretch before me, yearning to be lived. And I yearn to live them, though I know not what they hold. Is it the unknown that scares me, or fear of failure? The fear that whatever the future conceals won't live up to my wildest dreams? Oubliez ça, oubliez ça. Remember the truth. I hold the reins. Nay, God holds the reins. A far better driver than I. He can see so much more from his place in the sky. So if he guides me, then why do I fret? I circle in squares, lost in corners I create. Right angles end up wrong. I wonder if I'm growing obtuse, or just fuzzy from feelings too late.
The poem was so good it made my stomach grumble. Then,
that's some serious power.
Like,
Yeah.
I love this part where you go, is it... Yes, the fear that whatever the future conceals won't live up to my wildest dreams. I like that line.
Okay.
This is from my day 14. And it was kind of similar to yours. It was like, days off don't feel that off anymore. Running from one place to the next. Hopping, texting, driving, running in circles while holding my breath to not drown on my tears. Feeling like I don't want to work here anymore. It's funny how there's a point in our lives all we need to really care about is feeling free, playing and running, not in circles but in every possible direction, loving and hopping, not in circles but from place to place without losing any momentum, exploring, rediscovering, and living life through each breath, unafraid of where the next step might take them, because if they fall, they get on up, wipe them tears, and keep running forward to the next yet to know moment. That's how I want to live.
I love that one. I love hearing that one read. The vigor with which it builds the whole time.
Right.
Okay. Now we have a couple that are both about some adventures.
Oh, yeah. The adventures ones.
Yes.
So we went through this adventure. We saw there was a mattress store.
Spoiler.
Never mind. Go on.
Just you'll live it.
You'll live it.
Yes. Day 11. Drunk on laughter, high on smile, Brussels sprouts heaped in a pile. A grand dinner served on a ridge, tasty but cold, if only a smidge. Mattress store, eating one fish but wanting one more. Pumpkin or Oreo? Oreo's divine, as is Nutella, and the 5-9.
Great. Awesome stuff. Day 12, so this is after you wrote it, right? Yoga classes, serendipitous encounters, sleepless nights in the heart of Los Angeles, wanting to show that I've come to grow, closing the door in a mattress store, eating one fish but wanting one more. Will it make sense when all of it's gone? Will it make for something better than before? Question. Yeah. I was a little off with the rhythm, but okay.
No, it was good. It worked. Okay, now we both have one more.
Yes.
I think. Okay, so.
Oh yes.
Yes.
I love this last two.
Yes, we left the best for last.
The best for last.
Okay, this is my day 24. A red cup of coffee, a red cup of tea, a red-lined notebook filled with bits of me. Espresso and souls both poured out the same, each to-go cup and person given a name. Some come and go, some stick around, all gripping tight this habit to which we are bound. Fleeting conversation, laughter here and there. Perhaps the stayers dive deep, the goers haven't a care.
Oh, it's so good it like leaves me with one.
Yeah. Leave him.
Leave him hanging.
Yeah.
All right.
This is a great one to end on.
Yeah, this is day 31. I call this the tree of life. The tree of life grows deeply within. It soars with the crescent moon and the shallow reefs deep beneath the shore. There are lusters of green and sparks of white, amber flies sourcing from the heart, all ever culminating at the palm of my hand. The tree of life is all of life. It's the triceratops of rotten moles to the skyrocketing buildings of pale blue glass. It's the rampant change of time with an hourglass that never wings a whisk of sand. The tree of life is the meaning of life, is knowing when to smile when the hours are turned to dust and memories deeply forgotten, is knowing when to cry for one's first goodbye, is knowing when to live for what's truly yours and not anything more, is knowing that one can be free with something bigger than you. I'm an oak tree catching on the breeze. I'm a dolphin leaping from the sea. I'm everything in anything. I'm jumping. I'm running. I'm smiling because I'm happy to be here. Carving on the tree of life a heart that says to me, to you, and all of us, for the you and me in all of us.
Great. That one gave me chills.
Nice. All right, well, Madeline, that concludes our episode.
That was so much fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for being such a source of love and light all the time.
Thank you. And the same to you. Thank you for having me and bringing this beautiful bit of light to my day and my week.
Thank you. Cheerio.
Sante.